Happy Christmas Eve and welcome to this space, into our space this time because we're doing the combined service with the Rockton and Durand United Methodist churches. So thank you for being with us and coming into our home as well as being in your own homes and doing this together so that we can celebrate the birth of Christ together and worshiping as it is a part of our rhythms and a way of being reminded of who we are and who we belong to. So thank you for joining us in this and making this such a special time in this unprecedented time. The offices in both churches will be closed and the hours and days are up there, and I imagine most places are this way, but just to remind you. So enjoy your time together with family and however you find meaningful during this season. I had the privilege of being over at the Dietmeyer farm and to bring our wreath again to the final place to have the lighting of the candles. Enjoy participating in the tradition of lighting the candles of the wreath and various families in our community doing so, but in their space, opening up to the sacred space of their home and their farms and how the presence of Jesus blesses them as they bless us in the readings and the lighting of the candles.
Our Christmas affirmation, Advent hope moves us. Advent love leads us. Advent joy stirs us. Advent peace stills us, that we might affirm our King Jesus. It is time we set flame to this Advent affirmation by lighting the Christ child.
We believe that Jesus is the Son of God. He was born of the Virgin Mary in Bethlehem of Judea. He was the long-awaited Messiah, whose coming was prophesied. The same Jesus lives today in our hearts. He deserves our highest loyalty and total commitment. In Jesus Christ, our hope is fulfilled, our love is consummated, our joy is complete, and our peace is sealed.
Rejoice, a Savior is born. A Savior is born indeed, joy to the world.
This night is the long night, when those who listen await his cry.
This night is the eve of the great nativity, when those who are longing seek his appearing.
Wait with watchful heart.
Listen carefully through the stillness. Listen, hear the telling of the waves upon the shore.
Listen, hear the song of the angels glorious. Ere long it will be heard that his foot has reached the earth. News that the glory is come.
Truly his salvation is near, for those who fear him, and his glory shall dwell in our land.
Watch and pray. The Lord shall come.
Those who are longing await his appearing.
Those who listen await his cry.
Watch.
Wait.
Listen.
This night is
a long night.
Stars in the bright
Luke 2:15-20. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known that had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen as it had been told to them.
What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. This is Christ, the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him out the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh, come blessed King to all men. The King of kings salvation brings, let loving hearts and broken. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him out the babe, the Son of Mary.
The reading is from Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 6. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying,
"Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who will govern my people Israel."
As we come to this time of prayer, quiet your hearts, soften your senses, and allow the Spirit to bring you ever closer to the center where Jesus resides, where we recognize the Christ child in us. Listen for when the sound ends and the silence begins. Holy God, God of goodness, God of all our senses, creator and giver of our sensing. We have hope because we can sense you in our being. We have joy because we can taste of your goodness. We have faith because we hear and listen, and your voice, you speak to us in ways that we can understand. Center us, Lord. Help us to hear more clearly. Quiet us. Fill this space, O God, and open up our senses to you, the fragrance of your love. We welcome you into this space. We welcome you into our being, our human space. And we welcome the Christ child and consider the gravity of it, the immensity of God being human. And we wait and we listen. We see, we hear, we smell, and we know you, O God. I open the stable door. I kneel before the infant. I worship with the shepherds. I adore the Christ child. I give my love with Mary and Joseph. I wonder at the Word made flesh. I am aware of the love of God. I sing glory with the angels. I offer my gifts with the wise men. I receive the living Lord. I hold him in my hands. I go on my way rejoicing, glorifying, and praising God. And we continue to pray when we don't even have the words to pray. The prayer that Jesus taught us.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I may go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road.
Smelling love. When I was thinking about the sermon title and thinking through like what smells remind me of love, and I think of memories I have of growing up, and one of the smells there was whenever we went to visit my my favorite cousin's house in Michigan when I was a child, and there was always a unique smell in their house, and I loved that smell because it had happy memories to me. And so when we would walk in there, it would bring back memories of Christmases and different times that we would visit there. But I think of when I'm in the embrace of one of my family members and the smell that I sense from them and how it reminds me of love. Or some food. I told my wife I think about when someone is, baking fresh bread and you know that they're doing this for others, or something like some kind of food smell that you know that they're preparing for you, and that reminds me of love. But I found this story that I just thought was fascinating that relates with this idea of love and smell. And it talks about this couple, David and Diana. This is a number of years ago, but Diana ended up having shy of 6 months pregnancy. She had to undergo an emergency cesarean to deliver the couple's new daughter, Danae Lou Blessing. And she was only 12 inches long and weighed only 1 pound and 9 ounces. The doctor said, "I don't think she's going to make it. There's a 10% chance she will live through the night. But even then, if by some slim chance she does make it, her future could be a very cruel one. She would probably be blind, would never walk, possible cerebral palsy, or mentally handicapped, and on and on." Diana and David had a 5-year-old son, and their dream was to have to complete a family of 4. And David walked in and told her that they needed to talk about making funeral arrangements. And she says, "I felt so bad for him because he was doing everything, trying to include me in what was going on, but I just wouldn't listen. I couldn't listen. I said, no, that is not going to happen. No way. I don't care what the doctors say. Danae is not going to die. One day she will be just fine and she'll be coming home with us." As if willed by Diana's determination, Danae clung to life hour after hour. But a new agony set in for them because with Danae's underdeveloped nervous system, every lightest kiss or caress only intensified her discomforts. They couldn't even cradle their tiny baby girl against their chest to offer strength of their love. All they could do was pray. And there was never a moment when Danae suddenly grew stronger, but as the weeks went by, she slowly got stronger, and at 2 months old, the parents were finally able to hold her. 5 years later, Danae was a petite but feisty young girl with glittering gray eyes and an unquenchable zest for life. She showed no signs whatsoever of any mental or physical impairments. And one blistering sunny afternoon in their home in Irving, Texas, Danae was sitting in her mother's lap in the bleachers of a local ballpark where her brother Dustin's baseball team was practicing. And as always, Danae was chattering nonstop with her mother and several other adults sitting nearby when she suddenly fell silent. Danae asked, "Do you smell that?" Smelling the air and detecting the approach of a thunderstorm, Diana replied, "Yes. It smells like rain." Danae closed her eyes again and asked, "Do you smell that?" Once again her mother replied, "Yes, I think we're about to get wet. It smells like rain." Still caught up in the moment, Danae shook her head, patted her thin shoulders with her small hands, and loudly announced, "No, it smells like him. It smells like God when you lay your head on his chest. Oh, it smells like him. It smells like God when you lay your head on his chest."
Tears blurred Diana's eyes as Danae then happily hopped down to play with the other children before the rains came. Her daughter's words confirmed what Diana and all the members of the extended Blessing family had known during those long days and nights of her first 2 months of her life when her nerves were too sensitive for them to touch her. God was holding Danae on his chest, and it is God's loving scent that she remembers so well.
So, as Howie mentioned, homemade bread in the making is something that, because of the effort that's put into it, is something that reminds him of love because of the loving hands that prepare it. And the same thing with Thanksgiving preparation, with all the fragrances that go through the house when the turkey is cooking. Greer mentioned Papa's blueberry pancakes. Beth said a fresh washed baby. And others mentioned a woman's perfume or freshly brewed coffee that I didn't make. The smell of our air purifier, my oldest daughter said, because she has some pretty significant allergies, and so the smell of the air purifier is an indication of love by the one who got it for her so she could breathe better. And also just the smell of home. Sometimes you can't really pinpoint what that is. That's where she is reminded of unconditional love. And I was remembering the combination of Old Spice aftershave and Diesel, I'm pretty sure it was, and Sweat mixed together, which was the fragrance of my dad after a long, hard day's work. And so apparently Old Spice has become cool again, I guess. And so Clark likes to use the Old Spice line deodorant. When he first started using it, so many memories came flooding back and were summoned of my dad's coming home in the evenings and our family meals together and his wrestling with us on the floor. The same with fresh brewed coffee, waking up super early to spend time with my dad before he went off to work as he was filling his ginormous thermos with the brew. My dad, who was present to us, loved me no matter what. Fragrance, the olfactory nerves and the olfactory bulb that feeds into the olfactory tract sends messages directly across the area of the brain that holds memory. This is why scents and smells can evoke such powerful emotions, elicit vivid memories unbidden. Incense permeates the air, it fills the nostrils, inhabits the lungs, expel, inhale, exchange and circulate, pumps through the veins, saturates the muscles and ligaments. The Hebrew word for spirit, ruach, also means breath. And just as our breathing pervades every cell, so the spirit occupies every atom of our corporeal being. When God inhabited flesh by entering the process of conception, gestation, and birth, this person did not merely overlay a spirit with a flesh suit. It was a limiting of what is already divine, that which was created from the beginning as the very image and likeness of God. God inhabited, dwelled, became just like us by becoming the same form that we are now, that we experience. Flesh that is limited because we stopped looking at the source. Because we stopped dwelling in the life force presence of the source of our being. God chose to be emptied of God's divine form to take the same form we currently know and experience. This flesh home, now inundated by all the senses given us, sensing everything, immediate. Jesus lived and experienced the intensity of instantaneous sensing. The same struggles we encounter to see a person beyond the surface features, hear into what she is actually saying, past the sound of her voice, sense the truth of what he is feeling more deeply than our own pain. Jesus became just like us in our bondage to immediacy. And then Jesus showed us how to empty ourselves of that captivity. So frankincense, for instance, is distinct. It's a very distinctive scent. Frankincense to me does not really give a pleasant and soothing aroma. Some find it very meditative, which is likely why it was considered so precious to the wise ones who gifted it to Mary. I, for one, might use it to center, to inhale past the strength of the fragrance beyond the immediate sense. John of the Cross writes about this kind of spirituality. He says, "O night that guided me, O night more lovely than the dawn, O night that joined beloved with lover, lover transformed by the beloved. Upon my flowery breast, kept wholly for himself alone, there he stays, sleeping, and I caressed him, and the fanning of the cedars made a breeze. The breeze blew from the turret as I parted his locks with his gentle hand that wounded the back of my neck and caused all my senses to be suspended. I remained lost in oblivion. My face I reclined on the beloved. All ceased and I abandoned myself, leaving my cares forgotten among the lilies." Suspending all my senses is another translation of the 7th stanza there. He explains that it's not only at this point of our utter senselessness, complete light deprivation of the soul and all the senses, it is only at this sense of deprivation that one can experience union with God. Much like when we listen for when the sound ends and the silence begins. It's in that space that cannot be defined. Though we learned a great Japanese word a while back called ma, which is the sound of silence, which does describe that in a way that we can comprehend. Beverly Lanzetta explains, "Since in a body we will always have elements of personality traits and the immediacies of the senses, self-emptying is not an absolute state, but a practice of letting go. And this practice of detachment in which we experience the fluidity of presence that is deeper than identity becomes the medium for the great transformation of being. It is something unfathomable, but something we can experience like I did with my dad who was present with us. It is something profound. It is something true. God limiting, becoming flesh as we experience flesh. Emptying of the essence, the expression of God's will for creation in all its fullness. Emptying of the perfection in the way that God created flesh to be. Emptied of that. That is face to face with God, knowing God and being fully God's image and likeness. Jesus is God's being in solidarity with us as we flounder, unsensing everything that is possible. We now are entirely filled with and by all that is God, love. We empty ourselves to let the divine flood us with love. We are empty so that we may be full. And as you take in the fragrances of the scented candles of the season, inhale the aroma of Christmas brunch, for us, turkey bacon and gluten-free cinnamon rolls, in all the memory and emotion it conjures, all of it, be present to all of it. And then exhale your attachment to them, emptying the immediate reactions, the hopes, the dreams, the disappointments, the pain. And inhale the truth, the reality of what God has done, what Jesus is, what the Spirit of God longs to do and be in you. And notice what the smell is like. It smells like love. Amen. And we remember to give out of all that God has given us, who we are becoming, and we are mindful of those who have not enough and of all that we have.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shine the ever
hallelujah sounds through earth and skies above. Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
Holy God, we are grateful for all the gifts that you have given us. We are most grateful for the gift of your being, your coming, Emmanuel, God with us. And we offer these gifts to you as a holy invocation. We offer all our senses to you, and we are grateful. Receive them, use them for us to be able to share this good news, this beautiful news, the truth that you are and you have come so that we can know you and be more like what you have made us to be. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. And hear the benediction. From the rising of the midwinter sun to its setting, scatter the darkness with the light of your love, O shining one. Make me short on mean thoughts, long on offering words of comfort. Make me short on being driven, long on paying attention. Make me short on focusing only on my own, long on looking beyond. Make me short on obsessive lists, long on spontaneous acts of kindness. Make me short on mindless activity, long on time to reflect. Make me short on traction as habit, long on rediscovery and re-owning. Make me short on rushing and tiring, long on walking and wondering. Make me short on false festive jollity, long on stilling and rooted joy. Make me short on guilt, long on being merciful to myself. Make me short on being overwhelmed, long on peaceableness as I set forth this day and into the night. Go in peace and grab your coat and a candle and meet us outside as we sing Silent Night. Don't forget to listen for the church bells ringing at 6 p.m. and then we will sing together. You can follow it at our normal Durand UM Community /live link, and it's also in the email that I sent. Or you can come on Zoom and hear us, and remember that it doesn't matter if there's going to be some muddled singing. We'll all be singing together, and the Zoom link is in there as well. So join us with Silent Night, and then we'll try to do Joy to the World. If it's way too cold, you can pretend that you're outside and sing with us, please. Joy to the world.